Welcome to the Brant Phillips Show, the show dedicated to results. Now, here's Brant.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Brant Phillips Show. I've got a special guest on with you today. And so a lot of these podcasts and shows, people say, hey, I'd like to introduce my good friend. And a lot of sometimes like little peek behind the curtains. A lot of these people in promotions, like, they're promoting and they may have met at a conference, or something like that, at one point in time. But this is a friend of mine, like a true friend. His name is Judson Smith, and we met years back. He came to one of my events, a Breakthrough at the Beach event, and since over the last few years, like I've watched Judson become like Hall of Fame action taker and just going out and doing taking action and just doing the work and really starting from a very small business to like really consistently taking his business to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. So I'm very happy that all you guys are listening today, because you're going to be in for a treat with my good friend Judson. Judson, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing awesome, man. I appreciate the generous intro.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's like that's not even doing – I don't think that's even really doing justice what you've been doing, man, because since I met you a few years ago, dude, you've just been crushing it. I'll tell you what, one of the greatest compliments for someone who's like is a coach or a mentor, just helping people out, is whenever they go out and do what you suggest or recommend. And not you went out years ago and did everything that I taught you, and you've taken things to the next level. And some of my students have gone out and created even bigger businesses than myself. And that is a compliment to me. And so you're a dude who's crushing it, including close to, I think, 100-unit deal that you did recently. But before we get into some of the nuts and bolts about real estate, man, just introduce people, tell them a little bit about yourself so they can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I do my business in the Raleigh, Durham, and surrounding areas of North Carolina. Family man. I've been married to my wife, Lauren, for 5 years, and we've got 3 kids. We've got Parker, who's 5, and then we've got Ella Kate and Emmeline, who are twin girls, who are 3. And funny story is, you were just talking about meeting at your Breakthrough at the Beach event, and I remember when I first saw the ad come up on Facebook, and I was sitting on my couch, and I was having a couple beers and watching the game at that time, and whatever football game was on, and Lauren was pregnant, and anyway, I was like, man, should I go? Should I not go? And I was up in the air. Well, long story short, I ended up signing my commitment and sending my wire while I was in the hospital room and having the twin girls. So the next time you say, now's not the right time, well, think about that, because there will never be a right time. But yeah, man. So we do all kinds of real estate deals, buy and holds. We flip, we've wholesaled at times. And so our goal is really just always, bringing value and solving whatever problem the property brings to us, and helping people out whatever way we can through real estate. So it's been a journey. It's been awesome. And a lot of it started with our relationship there at Breakthrough at the Beach.
Yeah, I remember that whenever, you were having the twins, and then not only signing up and committing to that, but then telling your wife that, hey, I've got to fly clear across the country next month. A couple of 1-month-old babies. Yeah, I remember that, man. And it's the timing for, a lot of things in life it's a lot of big things, most big things, it's never going to be ideal. That's for sure. Good or bad, whether it be something positive, and a lot of times negative things that arise, like this is not a good time for it, but that's usually the time it's going to appear. So, like whenever, when I teach real estate, of course, my program is built around what I call the 7 fundamentals. And first fundamental is mindset. And, you know, I say over and over and over again, the most important part of your business, or at least out of these 7 fundamentals, really is mindset. And we were talking before we started recording this a little bit about Navy SEAL training and guys, you know, just that we've been at the gym, and some guys that are just like have this really strong mental fortitude. What have been some of your insights or things that you use to just help you stay focused and create results in business that revolve around this conversation about mindset? Like, why is that so important to business success?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that quote. I don't know if Tyson was the first to do it, but he definitely said it with the everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And with a lot of investors, even including myself, you know, this looks great. You go out, you see $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 flip profits, and you know you see it on TV and the way it's gonna look or should look, and then you actually go out and do it, and somewhere between a week and 2 weeks in, you just get punched right in the face with some sort of adversity, and things don't look like they did on TV, and you know, problems come up out of nowhere. And so mental fortitude becomes the biggest tool you have. And I use a couple things, man. I've after dealing with a bunch of problems and having a bunch of what I thought were world-ending issues come up in my business that I had to deal with right then. One of the things I try to do is just weed away the noise and the BS to get to what the real issue is. So a lot of times when we face adversity, right, it's all this noise, and it's chaos coming at us, or what appears to be chaos at first. So if you can quiet your mind enough, whether that's writing it down or taking a second to breathe or getting out of the situation, and ask yourself a couple simple questions like, what do I need? What needs to happen in order to fix this? You know, what do I need to do, or who do I need to be, or who do I need to contact or employ, or whatever the question may be, to solve this? And one thing I've seen over and over with myself, especially in the beginning days, was I'd get so wrapped up in the problem. You know, we opened up this wall and it's completely eaten with termites. That's an extra $10,000 that I don't have in my bank account. Or, you know, we've got 5 jobs open and they're all late, or the contracts fell through. It's noise. But when you can take a second and separate yourself mentally from the noise and discover what the real issues are and how to solve them, things quiet down for you, and you start to build systems that solve things.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, man. And I know one of the things we talk about the beach, it's so important, is creating that space from the noise, because the noise and the stress and the pressure it's overwhelming, and it's real. Like, the struggle is real. Yeah. But I mean, there's tools, you know, like you have your structure, some of your habits, some of your resources and tools that you do to go to combat them, and so that's why it's so important. I tell people about I don't like to use the word having a balanced lifestyle, but creating some of the habits and the things that help overcome all the daily little darts that come at us. Because if you're building a successful business, and most listeners out there maybe, you know, doing real estate on the side or full time, maybe working a full-time job, and they have a career, they've got relationships, they have kids, you have to create some space where you can kind of check out from all of the white noise and everything going on. That's why we, you know, teach and preach doing things like daily exercise, and or doing things like just meditating and just creating some space to get clear, get present with where you're at, what's most important, so you can kind of sift through the BS, if you will, to find like, okay, where's the pressure coming from, and where's the target? Like, where can I like push the button or call someone to outsource this thing, or just whatever it is to get it resolved as quickly as possible so you can get back to focusing on making money and enjoying your business and doing the things that matter the most, man. And it's absolutely
you're 100%, dude. And I'm just going to jump in real quick right there, if I may, because here's what I've understood, and part of what you've taught me as well is these clearing mechanisms, right? Nothing can go constant for 100% of the time. So we can't run hard. We can't run our business 100% of the time. Like we literally can't focus on something for that long. So these outlets that we're talking about, healthy ones being working out, meditation, time with family, time with kids, those outlets are going to happen no matter what. But those outlets also look like booze, sports gambling, porn. Like, you're going to have those outlets no matter what. So I've learned to, and I tell people, younger people too, like, pick your poison, and one's actually not poison, but pick your method, because you have to create space, and you're going to create space. You're either going to do it healthy or something that's going to eventually tear down the whole house.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. That's why if you look at my calendar, like every day I've got time blocked out for my kids, and I've got workout scheduled throughout every day of the week. Doesn't mean that I'm, busting out some 2 or 3 hour workout, but I'm getting at least 30 minutes to do something. Not that I want to, not that I always enjoy it, although I do most of the time, but I know that if I don't do that I'm going to likely be a big ball of stress and just not as productive. I'm not going to be as relaxed when I do go home with my kids, my family, and things like that. So it's absolutely critical just to stay in this game, because this game of real estate, this game of business, man, it is it's so much. It's not always about the X's and O's. It's not always about the fundamentals of real estate, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But it's all these little ancillary things that you may not see on the whiteboard, like analyzing deals and, buy valuations and raising, money and financing. It's the things that we don't whiteboard about that are intertwined with all of these things that we do on a daily basis, how we're operating in these relationships with employees and with contractors and with private lenders. And if you're operating your life where it's just a big mess of chaos and uncertainty, then you're going to step into your business that way. And that's probably, how you do one thing is how you do all things. So it's going to trickle down effect or trickle into effect on how your business is run. All right, man. So let's move into a couple of the other fundamentals just real quick, and let's talk about a little bit on let's talk about deal flow, because one of the most critical things in business and real estate, where with our coaching students here and even just running our business, we spend most of our time talking about and working on generating deal flow. Second most is probably financing. And we also spend a lot of time with construction and rehabbing, but we've got that built out pretty well with our teams and systems. But let's talk about deal flow, man. Like, what are you doing in your market? And I know you're in North Carolina. It's probably a little bit different here in Houston, but it's probably pretty similar. What are you doing to generate deal flow in your business?
Yeah, I'll start by saying deal flow is the lifeblood, and the interesting thing about deal flow is that you can you might think that money in the bank or in the operating account is what makes you feel good as a real estate business owner, but for me it's really more, as long as I've got a few deals in the pipe, that's mentally, that's always what makes me feel healthier, even more so than cash, because that's what creates our cash. That's what gives our investors and private lenders a place to put money and grow their money. And so without it, I mean, you could build as big of a bank account or do as big of a deal as you wanted to do, but what's next? Where's that money moving, and what's coming down the pipe? So a few strategies we use, and probably nothing new here if you've ever listened to anything about real estate or real estate investing, but direct mail or direct marketing, creating relationships with wholesalers, creating relationships with investor-friendly real estate agents, which is let me hone in on that one, because hopefully I can save you a couple years of your life. Do not mess with real estate agents who do not know investing or do not deal with investors, because you will bang your head against the wall and wonder why a deal that is selling for 150 that you don't want to pick it up for 140. So make sure you're dealing with investor friendly, talk to other investors in the area, get in with the people who are selling deals. And then the biggest way, honestly, to create deal flow would be to close a deal. Prove to these people that you, whoever the key players may be in your market, that you can close, and I know we'll get to that later on, how to close and how to raise capital. But once you close a couple properties, the deal flow gets more consistent, because the people feeding you deals know you did what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I see a lot of newbies come in to the business, and the marketing piece, creating deal flow, is really, it's about your commitment level when it comes to like spending money, or if you're taking more of a I guess a grassroots approach. And the way I started really was just through a lot of networking and meeting people and trying to find out who the real players were. That was also a commitment level of just my time and my energy. But a lot of times it's just a matter of being committed to a marketing plan and doing it over and over and over and over again. To me, I've found like that is the most critical piece. I read a book one time, and it was like, 101 ways, or however many it was, 101 ways to like market for your, real estate deals. And so this guy went through all these different ways to do marketing for a real estate business. And so then basically he asked the question, he's like, this is probably what a lot of you are asking, towards the end of the book. What is the best way out of all these, 100 ways or whatever it is? What is the best way to market my business? And he said, whichever one you're going to commit to do over and over and over again. Like with postcard marketing, for example, I've seen people who will create a campaign and they'll spend $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is, and they'll mail out maybe once or maybe twice, and they don't get a deal, and then they just stop. And I did that in the very beginning. Like, that is myself. That's what I did the very beginning. The first time we did a campaign, we had spent like 10 or 15 grand almost, and like we didn't land a deal from them. I'm like, oh, we got to stop this. But when you look at for postcards and letters, for example, when you look at your return rate, a first-time mailer that you send to somebody, you're going to get like maybe a 2% response, maybe. And then you send out again, it goes to like 3 or 4%. You send out again, it goes to like 5 or 6%. But after you send out like the 5th or 6th exposure to somebody, and that little bit of the trust goes up, a little bit of familiarity, then it jumps up to like 30 or 40 or 50% response rate, something like that. So that rule of direct mail marketing applies really across the board with all marketing. It's just a matter of being consistent over and over and over again. And I've seen that to be true. Especially, we do a lot of SEO marketing, but it's taken us 2 years to get really. It took us about 1.5 years to say, oh, we're pretty good at this, to where we're really good at it. It's not that we're really good. It's just we've been really consistent for multiple years now. So it's just starting to pay dividends, really, like with a lot of things. It just takes time.
Well, and some key things, just for the listeners, like a couple things you said there. So it can take years to build this type of response rate. And the 2% you're talking about, that's responses. That's not deals. So there's this second.
That's just
there's this second layer to it that's like, yeah, I sent out 1,000 postcards and 20 people didn't tell me to go die in a hole somewhere, and I was able to convert one of those into a deal, and that was honestly with marketing was my first. Actually, Chris, one of our mutual friends, he sent me a screenshot one day. He's like, "Dude, you're famous. You're on the interwebs." And it was a article I'd done with Postcard Mania, which is a good postcard company that they've always had really good customer service and done a really good job. But they had done an interview with like a good month that had been created through one of their campaigns, and it's just one of those things where that looks great, and I've got the picture up there cheesing, and this is what happened with this postcard. But what you don't see is all these. I used to drive for dollars, and which is basically just riding around looking for vacant houses, and all these other things that went in with no response, or people saying, sellers saying like, you guys are ripping people off, you're scamming people. And so this is the side of marketing that if you are new to the game, I mean, be prepared that people, if it isn't taught at a school or a university or something like that, like people won't understand it. So you do have to stay consistent in what regardless of what don't commit to don't be wavered by the outcome. Commit to the process, like you were saying.
Yeah. It's there. So when we work with new students, it's the science is the results are, and the math, it's all there. It's like this is what happens consistently over and over time. Like this has been proven that you're going to get these results with this effort and this consistency. But until you experience it, like being a newbie, I get it. It's scary because there's essentially two types of truth that we have. We have like knowledge that we identify, and we'll say, hey, yeah, I accept that as truth, even though it may be something that we've never experienced before. And this is like raising our kids, like we're trying to teach them through our experiences, or training employees, or for me training students, like, hey, this is true. Like this is really what happens, when you do these things, or when you do this thing, or whatever it may be. Like this is truth. And then be like, oh yeah, I can see how that happens. Like they believe, like I don't lie very much. So people, I tell them something like, yo, I believe Brant, like it's true. But if they haven't experienced it themselves, like for themselves, like it's harder for them to like truly accept this truth through experiences. Like the one I taught one of my kids to ride a bike recently, without training wheels. And I kept telling him, like, son, when you get this, like whenever you take these training wheels off, you're going to love this. I'm like, I know you're scared of it right now because you can fall, but I promise you, even if you fall a few times and you fall down, and even if you scrape your knees and your elbows and you bleed, even if you do that, when you learn how to do this, you're going to say, Dad, it was well worth it because this is so much fun. So finally, we got the training wheels off, and like he experienced it, and he was terrified before, and he experienced it, and he was like, oh, Dad, it's so much fun. I love it. I'm like, yeah, because he had experiential truth. He experienced it, felt like it's so true. So it's like that with a lot of my students. It's like they're walking through, it's kind of like that valley, that dark valley. They start spending money on direct mail and things like that. And like I'm on the other side of the valley, the tunnel, like where the light is. I'm like, I promise you, keep going. There's going to be a deal. And it's like, it's dark. It's really dark in here. I think I can see you at the end of the tunnel, Brant, but I'm not sure. But when they get that deal, it's like, and then they're going out and telling other people about it, So it's definitely been that way. Hey, I'm just curious. Was the deal that you did the big deal with the multiple homes a part of that, like a direct mail marketing thing?
Yeah, so it actually it started as a direct mail marketing campaign on one house, and then I always have a follow-up question, or whoever's working with me or around me or I'm partnered with or whatever the scenario may be, I always make it a point to say, ask a seller if they have anything else. Like, is there anything else that you have that you'd be interested in selling? Once you have a deal locked in, and this happened to be a deal where it was a single-family house in a different area, and then the guy had like 97 other units clumped into a small city nearby, and he's like, I'm also interested in moving those. And it's like, well, when were you going to bring that up in the conversation if I didn't ask? And so yeah, that essentially resulted from direct mail, and it was that direct mail was actually sent to a tenant who relayed it up. The way I understand it, it was like, hey, you got this postcard that came, something to that degree. The guy lived on the same street as the house and the subject house that the mailer went to. So yeah, you never know. You never know. And that's why you just got to stay consistent with it. And I wanted to hop back real quick on that gap that you were talking about, because I think as much as people might want to hear, mechanical things, and as they usually do, like that's a huge thing you said about that valley or that risk gap that exists there, because I really feel like it's what separates people, like who will sit in the gap and who will sit in the pain of risk or risk tolerance for long enough to see the results, and whether it's marketing or trying something new in your business or growing your business, you've got to be willing to sit in that gap long enough if if you trust in your heart that what you're going after works. And you made the reference to marketing, but before we hopped online, I mean, we were talking about business growth, like for us, for me and you. I mean, like guys that are, already doing certain types of numbers, like you experience that same type of fear, that same type of gap, that same type of darkness, some days of what in the hell am I doing? Even at the next level, even at this level. So it's always like, how have you built yourself to sit in that gap, in that valley, in that darkness until things pan out?
Yeah, man, it is so important. And we're really kind of going back to mindset, which is fine with me, because that, like I said, is the most important fundamental of business. And just recently, I mentioned before our call, a friend of mine's bought like 1,400 houses, and, he talked about he came out to one of our events and, just spoke about very similar things, just about having the mindset, being committed, and do whatever it takes. In a lot of friends and people I've had in this business, we share war stories, masterminds and things that I'm a part of. And it's really, your commitment is so much more important than really anything else. Because if you're committed, no matter what, like you're committed, you're going to make this happen, then whether or not you spend $10 or $15 or $20,000 on marketing without getting a deal, if you're committed to it, you're going to keep doing it. And that's why it's important. So it's important to have a business and have a structure that's built on fundamentals, which I think we're really fortunate in the real estate, investing industry, because there's been so many people that's gone before us that have already created the map, and we just have to go out and execute it. And so when it comes to being a successful real estate investor, you don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel. Like, we just have to do what's already been done. This isn't like, we're not creating Tesla electric automobiles or creating Bitcoin or whatever. It's like, I'm not that smart. like, give me the map and let me just go out and do it over and over and over again. You know, I talked about this Navy SEAL, Joost, Joost, I think he's from Holland. He's coming to speak at our event here in a few weeks, our Flipping Houston Live event. And some people may say, well, why do you have a Navy SEAL come to speak at your real estate investing event? And like, so I'm like, why not? You know, and I love the SEALs, and, you know, Mark Devine is another one who a lot of these guys have really, there's been this crossover a little bit with kind of just the mindset and the Navy SEAL mentality and applying that to business. And he shared the story about when he was going through BUDS, which is the 5-day hell week, essentially, with no sleep and just brutal physical challenges and workouts and all these things that they have to go through. He tore tendons and muscles in his neck. I need to get clear. I heard on podcasts. Me and him are having a call tomorrow, so I got to get some more details on that because this really inspires me. But he tore tendons and muscles and ligaments and all kinds of stuff in his neck. He how it happened was, I don't know if you've ever seen in any of these Navy SEAL shows or whatever, they've got these boat exercises where they get in that boat out past the breaking waves, and it takes them time after time, like half a day to do it. But it's dependent on them. The only way to do it is if a little bit of luck probably, but them operating as a team. Because if even one of them's off or not pulling their weight or not positioned correctly, the boat's going to topple over. So it's all about teamwork, and also how they either continue to help each other and push each other, or if they give up. That's the part of the psychology about it. So literally the boat came over, like a decent sized boat, and hit like the back of his head. And that's how it like tore his tendons and his ligaments. So for the last day and a half to 48 hours, he literally could not hold up his head through his own neck muscles and ligaments or tendons, what have you. So he would, when he needed his head raised, which was probably the majority of the time, he would have to physically hold his head up with his hand. And that's how committed he was to completing Hell Week and becoming a Navy SEAL. And so I would say if a lot of people had, I don't know, maybe a 10th level, 10% of that commitment level in real estate, that they'd probably be really successful. But a lot of people get in and they dabble with it, or they're somewhat committed, and their goals are somewhat vague, or their why isn't big enough, and they don't make it, and it's not that they weren't good enough. It was just they weren't really committed to it.
Hey, this is Brant, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. If you're at a place in your life or your business where you just feel stuck, or you just don't know what actions to take to help you get unstuck or onto the path to creating the results you truly desire, please take a few minutes and go to my website, brantphillips.com. There's some really valuable resources and information that may be able to help you out. And if you're interested in really speeding up results with the help of a coach and mentor, and adding true accountability and guidance to your life and business, please reach out to me from my website as well at brantphillips.com, or going directly to www.brantphillips.com/coaching. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, well, everybody, it's my belief anyway that everybody's good enough. And like you said, that, the business plans are on Google. Just go Google real estate, the mechanics are there. And one thing, it doesn't annoy me. That's the wrong word, but I hope better for people when they ask about mechanics. Because the mechanics are always going to be the mechanics. It's everything that surrounds those mechanics that make or break your business, or, make or break how successful you're going to be. And I mean, let's go back to your buddy you were just talking about, which that's incredible that he had the drive to do that and finish. But like, how do you stand on a boat? How do you paddle there's 100,000 ways to do that. But the point of the exercise is just to finish And so I think new investors especially get so wrapped up in mechanics. And my advice would be, take it for what it is. Once you have your head wrapped around a certain mechanic that you understand, just go hammer it. Go hammer it and see how committed you are to it. And if you're really all in, well, I'll back up for a second. I took flying lessons all the way up to student pilot, right? Soloed my first airplane at night. Flew a cross country trip, which literally doesn't mean cross country, but flew down to South Carolina from North Carolina, Myrtle Beach at night. Flew over to my hometown, Edenton. Did all these things, and I wanted to be a pilot. Wanted to learn how to operate a single prop airplane, and I realized, this is something that took a lot of time, a lot of commitment, and it was all mechanics. It's all checklist. It's all proper equipment, proper procedure. It has a bit of coordination in it, but for the most part, it's mechanics. And when I found out at the end, and even as recently as within the last year and a half, I completed the written exam for the FAA, but still haven't got my pilot's license. So there's some type of gap there in terms of how committed I am to actually having that pilot's license in my wallet and being able to fly people around from place to place in a single prop airplane, and just looking at the facts. I'm not committed to it. It's not something that I truly want to do right now in my life, because if it was, there's no mechanics issues. There's no physical deficiency. There's no mental deficiency. Well, that's debatable, I guess. I've got a few mental deficiencies, but we won't talk about those. But
most serial entrepreneurs do.
Yeah, but the point being, if you're really, mechanics matter. You can't just go do business another way. But once you have your idea, your head wrapped around your idea, then you got to go execute, and you'll know your commitment level by your level of execution.
Yeah. Our commitment level will show in our results and what we either do or we don't do. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. The information we live, and we're very blessed. We live in the information age. Like 100 years ago, if you had a book about real estate investing, like you were head and shoulders above everybody else. You could have been the next real estate mogul 100 years ago with just a book about real estate investing, because 100 years ago, a lot of people could not even read. A lot of potential competitors or whatever, and they weren't really teaching it. There weren't a lot of maps about it. But you fast forward to today's day and age, and we can, in a matter of seconds, we can download a book that will give us probably everything that we really need to know to become really successful in real estate through just a book. But we can get into. It's important how you organize the information that you receive, how it's organized by who's ever teaching it, and how you organize it in your own and implement it in your own business. And all that's important, of course, but things have just changed. It's just a matter of being committed to executing it, and being okay with things failing, things going sideways. One of my mentors, who I wrote the book Conversations with a Millionaire Real Estate Investor with, he said this, and this always stuck out to me. And he's in his late 60s. He's amassed a fortune of I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars, but he's incredibly successful. But he said this one time that stuck out to me. And he said, Brant, it takes 10 years just to learn how to really make money. And I was like, whoa, what? And he was like, it takes at least 10 years. He was like, from what I've seen. He's like, in my experience from other people, you may make money on deals and you may be able to stay in business, but he's like, I'm talking about making real money. It takes 10 years to learn how to really make money, and then we got into the whole 10,000 hour rule and that kind of stuff where what you're doing, it becomes more instinctive than anything else. And, I've got my acquisitions guy who hasn't been working there too terribly long. Super smart, super sharp guy. You know, he'll bring a deal and maybe there'll be pictures or video or CMA, and like pretty quick most of the time I'm like, yep, like it, don't like it. He's like, what are you seeing? And I'm like, well, there's this and that. And he's like, I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't have thought about that. There's no way that you would even know to think about that, just because it's kind of the 10,000 hour thing. So yeah, man.
Hey, was this, let me hop in for a sec. Is that the guy you're talking about that said it takes 10 years to make money? Is that the same guy that won't lend to people unless they've failed on the deal?
So that is not the same guy.
Okay. That's something that always stuck out in my head. I love that quote, or the fact that he did that. Yeah.
I did a speaking event with him last week, and that came up that he will not loan. He's a lender, and they loan millions of dollars a year. He will not lend to someone, a real estate investor, if they say that they've never lost money on a deal, because he believes, one, they're too wet behind the ears. They haven't been experienced enough, or two, that they're flat out lying.
Yeah,
if they're established real estate investor, yep, this is absolutely true. And so real quick, when I was talking about that, about like getting the 10,000 hour thing, is something that I was talking about recently, like in a presentation. It's there because there's each year, each deal you do, you learn something. I can say that, like, I've learned something new on every deal, every house I go to, whether it be about rehab or the financing or the title issue or the insurance or whatever it may be. We learn something new on every deal. But for those of you out there, like, listen, like, thinking about getting into this business, just encourage you, like, don't do it if it's not something that you really think you're going to be passionate about long term, because what I've seen as one of the the key factors to success is sustainability. Like, to really create success in this business, like, I think you should look at the long term, and if it's something that you think that you'll really, really love, then you have a good chance of making this a sustainable business. When I say sustainable, it's sustainable in the business model. Like, financially, this is going to be sustainable to create a profit and revenue and a solid business structure for years and decades to come. And that's great. But if you can build a business and a life that not only is profitable, but you enjoy it, like you love getting up in the morning and love doing whatever it is that you do and building your business where you can focus on those things that you love doing, then you've not only have a profitable business, you've got something that's very sustainable for years and years and years and decades. Like, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting to where I'm like, are my kids going to come work for me? And that's one of my milestones, is like to keep moving to where, like, I can sit, like, if they so choose, like, they can come and work with me, and maybe they take it over someday. I don't know, but I want it to be like that, where it's sustainable and enjoyable at the same time.
And
profitable.
one thing, Brent, I have had talks with younger, I'm not like I'm an old investor, but guys that are just getting into the game, the ones I call younger, quote unquote. But one of the things is, like, if you start, you're talking about sustainability. An example would be, in building the correct habits. Like, you might not have deals yet, so your habit might be, okay, I'm going to read about real estate for 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day or an hour a day until I know enough to climb the next rung on the ladder. Or maybe maybe you have a business system and you say, okay, I'm going to look for deals every day. I'm going to network with agents and other investors every day until I'm, at the action point or whatever your action point, your threshold for knowledge needs to be in order to take action. Hopefully the sooner the better. But the point is, build the habits. I mean, you hear more established guys talking, and their habits may be, like I've been sharing a lot of my habits on Facebook lately, not to put it out there as much as just to keep myself committed. But it says things like, check in with PM spreadsheet, business spreadsheets. Like, that's after 8 years of my daily habits being drop to job 1, drop to job 2, drop to job 3, like that.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the word sustainability to me, when I hear you say that, really just means what habits, no matter what you did the day before or the night before or how you feel, what habits are you committed to in your business on a daily basis to move it forward?
Yeah, the single biggest factor is the habits, the little things that we do each and every day. We talk about swinging singles, just hitting nice little singles every day, and doing the little things that add up to really big things over time. So, all right. So, last thing I want to talk about is something that you mentioned also before we started the call. We've talked about habits. We've talked about mindset. We've talked about commitment. We've talked about marketing. So and we've talked about this. We've talked about losing money on a deal. My lender said he won't loan to somebody unless they've done that. Because when you go through that and when you lose money on a deal, that's absolutely one of the times where we get to learn. That's where we get to learn the most about ourselves and really what our commitment level is. And we talk about the beach. We talk about there's really nothing negative. Like people say, it's positive, it's negative, it's so bad. Well, okay, you could see it as being bad, and there's very unfortunate things that happen, but we also have the ability to classify them as useful or non-useful. And I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot on our home run deals, done multiple deals and make $100,000 on the deal. Pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. Guess what? I've learned so much more. I learned so much more on the first deal that I lost money on, where I lost like $4,000. I learned so much more on that deal that helped me make $100,000 on a deal, really, but it was because I lost money on that deal. And thankfully, just a handful of times I've lost money on deals after doing several hundred deals, those have by far been my greatest learning lessons. It's just something, it's once again, when you experience a loss, it's so painful, but there's so many like valuable lessons we get to pull out from it. And I think it's something that's important. It needs to be discussed with people venturing into this and letting them know, one is it's probably going to happen if you're doing any decent volume of deals, but two, it's okay. It's okay. We want to minimize those where I'm very, very thankful to say that the biggest loss I've ever had was just a little over $10,000. Now I've had several that have been losses like that, but I've learned a lot from them. So I've learned a lot about myself, my commitment level. So what's your feedback on that? Because I don't like some of these gurus that talk like it's never going to happen, because it is going to happen, and it's okay, and it's actually useful.
Yeah, you're going to lose money. I last year alone, and I'm okay with being honest because this is just the real game. But we lost over $100,000 in money doing deals for one reason or another, whether it was due diligences that fell through or non-refundable money on deals that were lost or couldn't be funded, whether it was flips that we had to sell under value or under where we thought we were going to be. And like you said, if you do enough deals, you're gonna lose money. I mean, you're gonna lose on some, and that's just how it is. And when I write those checks out, and obviously I don't write my checks, but when I send them out, I always take that moment to say, like, you know what, like, the money's there to cover it. Okay, that's my number one gratitude point. It would be different if it wasn't there to cover it, but something's going right. We're making enough money that we can cover this loss and keep our lenders paid, or, whatever the deal may be on the money. The second part is nothing has created more of a trustworthy heartstring, like bonding to my private lenders than them knowing that I'll pay them back no matter what. That if you loan money to my company to do a deal, that I will, and you told, I just had this idea pop up. You told me down at the beach the first time that we met, you were like, I told my wife day one, I will refinance my house to pay somebody back if I have to keep this business going, because that's how committed I am. And that's a line that stuck with me. I mean, I have another a real estate group I'm in now. We say we'd work at Wendy's, like whatever, I would work at Wendy's to pay these notes back. Yep. So it isn't that, it's ever really a scary moment. It's that you get so used to, you tend to get used to winning, and you get used to closing deals and things moving at such a fast pace that you're exactly right. You're not learning anything. It's just numb. And if you're listening and you think, dude said he made $100,000 multiple times, like, that's awesome. Well, yeah, it is. But guess how long that feeling lasts? About 5 minutes, when you're like, dude, we closed. Yes. And it's like, I just made 6 figures. And then you're like, 5 minutes later, you're like, did someone let the dog out? It's like, who cares? So, but when you lose, you learn. And so I just think whenever I lose, I try to find some type of gratitude. Usually it's something like, my lender's going to love me. We're going to get stronger. And damn it, the money was in the account. The check cleared. Let's move on to the next deal.
Yeah, you're right, man. And so I had a side, I'll call it a side business. We had another business that we started up about 2 years ago, and it failed. And so it was just really, it was a lack of what we talked about. It was a lack of commitment, a lack of time and energy spent on this business because we weren't really committed to it. So after 18, 19 months of like, it really, visually or metaphorically, it was like this weight being on my waist. It's like, so if you've done workouts with like the 20-pound vest on, that's when I was going through all my SEAL Fit kind of training. I would do these workouts and Murph workouts with a 20-pound vest on. So that business was like having this 20-pound vest on me. It was like, it was weighing me down each and every day. And I've had these deals that go sideways. I've had some partnerships like that. So it comes to a point where we can continue to, cry, moan, reflect on the past, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Oh, things could have gone differently. I didn't have to lose money. I'm thinking about this business and what I'm going to do with it. Till about 3 months ago, I'm like, I'm just going to cut bait. I'm going to cut the cord. I'm going to cut the line. I'm going to take the vest off. I'm going to throw it off and be done with it. Yeah. Is it costing me 20, 25 grand? Something like that. I don't even exactly know what it's going to be. It's not a huge loss, but it's like you said, I've got the money to pay for it. And lo and behold, like I'm probably going to make a lot more money in a short period of time just by letting that go. So whenever you do a bad deal, if I'm going to give, for those of you maybe going through a deal right now, like don't beat yourself up. Like so important not to just beat yourself up. Like actually, if you can find a way to give yourself like a boost of encouragement, like pat yourself on the back, like, I know, Judson and I right now will welcome you, like officially welcome you to the club. Like welcome to the club of being a real entrepreneur. This is one of the buy-ins. Like you have to do deals and you got to lose some money on occasion. But if you can do it in such a manner where the loss isn't devastating, okay, you want to minimize losses for sure. Like for sure. So I'm not saying just go do a deal. No, you apply the 7 fundamentals if you've read my book or whatever training program or mentoring you get, like, you apply those lessons and you do what you're taught to do, and you execute like that you should. And you minimize losses, and that is really important, that you don't foolishly lose money, right? Like there's two types of mistakes, right? And so, like with my employees, like I don't mind mistakes from effort, right? From trying really hard. But I hate lazy mistakes. Like I hate lazy mistakes. And so just being lazy, right? Like, oh, I didn't do this or do that, but you knew you should have. Like, let's not make those mistakes. But be okay with making some of these mistakes and taking losses. Now, always honor your word financially to your lenders. Any deal I've ever lost money on, my lenders have been paid 100% of whatever my note laid out, period. Most of my lenders never even knew that I took a loss. Some of them that do, and like Judson said, they appreciate me and trust me so much more. But take a little bit of time if you need to. I think I got this from whoever the publisher of Success Magazine is, so the editor or whatever his name is.
Darren Hardy,
Yeah, Darren Hardy was the 20-minute rule. It's like, okay, you lost money, whatever happened, this bad thing, whatever it is, literally people will go, we call it at Breakthrough, we call it the drift, right? Where whatever happens and you go on this drift of like, woe is me, blah, 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 pity party. And literally this can go on for days, weeks, months, years, and even decades. I've spoke to people and I hear them talking about things that happened tens of years ago, shoulda, woulda, coulda, if only it had been, blah, blah, blah. Give yourself 20 minutes. There's, I think, psychologically, like, we need to, like, let it out. So give yourself 20 minutes to punch a wall, maybe just a pillow, cry, suck on your thumb, yell, scream, mope, whine, whatever. Just emotionally let it out, and then take out a piece of paper and a pen and just spend some time. Write down the lessons that you learned, and I can pretty much guarantee you that those lessons that you learned in that deal are going to help you make so much more money than you lost if you apply them. For sure. Whenever I lost money on my first deal, I went through about a 3-month pity party. I'm like, I'm not flipping houses. This isn't for me. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. It's too risky. Blah, 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 blah. I did it for about 3 months. I went on that pity party and then took a little bit of time. I'm like, okay, let's look at what went wrong here. And I'm just going to consider doing it again because it really excited me. I was fearful of the pain of losing money, but I took the time to write down my notes. And when I took that time, I also realized that no wonder I lost money. I did almost everything wrong, like literally.
And you're still alive.
Yeah. And then the next deal, that was my first flip. And then the second deal, lo and behold, I netted over $60,000 in 60 days exactly. But it was just because I took a little bit of time to consider learning from what didn't go right.
And that's incredible, dude. That's exactly how it works. If you can be calm enough to sit in your stink, sit there. You suck, okay, and you got to sit in that for a little while. And that's the first conversation we rarely have. Is like, we want to listen, especially as men, like, you want to excuse it out. You're like, well, I lost money because my contractor sucked, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, no, you lost money because you're driving the ship and you suck today.
Yep.
And so once you sit in that, one of the things I realized, like the first deal I lost money on, I had so many other options other than just forking up the cash. And I freaked out, because I wanted to honor my word and I wanted to close the deal. And one of the first deals I ever did was with Lending Home, or one of those those type of companies. I think it was Lending Home. And I just wanted to pay them and for it to be done, but not realizing I had like a refi on the table. I had an owner finance deal that I could have done on the table and then sold the note. Like I had like 6 ways to get out of that deal, but I was like, oh crap. This is okay. Plane's going to crash. And then, I just cash out. But anyway, that's what I took from, and it's probably another topic for another day, but there's always there, if you buy correctly, if you buy at a discount and a certain type of discount, which is all laid out, and I know it's in your book and all over the internet, like buy at the right type of discount, and you've usually got 4, 5, 6 ways to exit a deal that may not be the most sexy or favorable, but they'll get you out of the deal, keep you, your lender, your private money, whatever it is, happy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot to what you just said. We could create a few more podcasts out of renegotiating commitments, creating space and time, and having multiple exit strategies. Those are all kind of interweaved in the fundamentals. And sometimes, we can say, it's funny you mentioned that about like, no, you suck. Because just the other day I was reminded of an old story from a friend of mine was in one of my masterminds, and we were working out together, and a friend of mine who was one of the trainers that day, who was an ex-New England Patriot, Super Bowl winner, and we're going through this workout, and it's a doozy. Like, it is not an easy workout. And this guy was next to me. He's like, oh, God, this sucks. This sucks. He's like bitching about the workout during the workout. And so my friend, who was probably about 315 at the time, 315 pounds, about 4, D lineman for the New England Patriots, gets in his grill, up in his face. It doesn't suck. You suck. You suck. Dude, if that's not the truth, man, like, when deals go sideways, well, if you had bought it cheaper, if you had maybe estimated repairs properly, if you had managed your contractors properly or better, or if you had, been able to raise money cheaper or put together a partnership deal or whatever, had bought a deal where you had multiple exit strategies, maybe the deal didn't suck. Maybe you sucked from where you're at. And so...
No. And one time I got real quick, I got into this conversation, and it was a yelling match. And the person I was yelling with was like, the contractors did this, the management was doing this, and you had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not pissed off because they did that. I'm pissed off because I let it happen, and I need to be yelling right now. It's like I just need to let it out, because I know it's the truth is, once you decide to take responsibility for everything, then there's only one place to look, and that's right there in the mirror. And then it's then you can deal with it. But don't fend it off. If you're new in the game, don't fend any of this off. Just take it on yourself, and then you'll grow 10x on that. Yeah, for sure, man. Well, let's close it on that. We may have to break this into a 2-parter.
Cool. So long, but that's a good thing, man. Well, my friend, it's good talking to you, man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your experiences and your insight and your wisdom with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate our friendship and your mentorship. And that really, it's hard to believe, dude, how short ago in terms of the big picture we met, and how much has just really moved since that day.
That's crazy, man. Well, I'm incredibly proud of you, man. Honored to have you as a friend, and I appreciate you, man, coming on.
Appreciate you too, brother. Talk to you soon.
You've been listening to The Brant Phillips Show. To listen to past shows, get updates on future shows, and find other resources or information about coaching, visit BrantPhillips.com.